Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Ji ayanu pakhair agale ni hao chune shumme washmale. Ohai gonzaimus. Guten Morgen. Hola. Bonjour. Privyet. Kaifa hal? Hale shuma chatore. Ahlan wa sahlan. Marhaba. Buna mucho gracias. Swabi balli kare aaya. Hoş geldin and ayo sayo khuyo mora chivato chihal jot kalimera khairutan. And a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning and are ready to kickstart their week with us, ladies and gentlemen. Joining me is my wonderful colleague who happens to be Miss Eesha Rehan. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your week. But first things first, hello Eesha, assalamu alaikum. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum assalam, Shahzad. I'm actually feeling wonderfully well, as you have stated, and that is because I have lived and revamped my whole soul during the weekend, spending time with the family and friends, and I think it refreshes us to be mentally present for work. So Shahzad, I'm curious about how your weekend went.
Okay, I think my weekend was good, it was exciting, but at the same time it was tiring too. Because imagine that my friends were visiting me from Lahore, and you know, because when they are around, you actually have to kind of make sure that that you give them whatever you can, you know, you do your best, whatnot. But just last night, imagine, so while they're at my place, what they did was that they tried calling their friends at my place as well, which was around 2 in the morning. And I was like, everybody's asleep over here, so you guys probably need to go back home. And I'm sorry for that, but ladies and gentlemen, I think having friends around will really refreshen your mood and kind of bring you the best energy. But while we're over here, I think it's the weather and the humidity which actually does not let us breathe the way that we want to breathe. So I think what we need to do is, in the light of the monsoon rays which have been going on and the destruction which has been occurring in our country or in different parts of the country, we need to speak about it first up. So for everybody who's out there, please make sure that you take notes, because more monsoon rains with wind and thunder showers predicted across the country from today. According to the Met Office, weak monsoon currents are continuously penetrating the upper and central parts of the country and are likely to intensify from today. Heavy rains may trigger flash floods in local nallas and streams across the country. Landslides and mudslides may result in road closures in vulnerable hilly areas of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Gilgit-Baltistan, Murray, Galiat and Kashmir during the forecast period. The public, travelers and tourists are advised to avoid unnecessary exposure to vulnerable areas and to stay updated on the latest weather conditions to avoid any untoward situation. And please make sure that whatever decision you really need to take, you take it well in time. God forbid if you think that the weather's not good, and even if your boss keeps on calling you from wherever, or even if your teachers are telling you to attend school, please make sure, if you think that you're not safe out there and if there might be any slightest of chance in flooding in your area, stay back home. Please make sure. Nothing is more important than your life and your health and your well-being and your property. So please make sure that you stay back home, even if your boss tells you that he's or she's going to fire you.
Definitely. And Shahzad, thank you for guiding all the people and giving them all these guidelines regarding how to behave during the monsoon season. But I think what we really need to recognize is that it is still summer and the heat is still prevalent. When the clouds part and the rain stops, the heat and the humidity does really affect us. And that is causing a lot of wildfires across the globe as well. So unfortunately, Albania's defense ministry dispatched around 90 soldiers and 2 helicopters to assist in containing a series of wildfires in the northwestern area. The blazes intensified across the region. Over 20 fires fueled by strong winds and soaring temperatures have scorched hundreds and hectares of pine forests and pastures. A wildfire injured 3 people and forced the evacuation of about 20,000 people near the southern Albanian town of Tel Aviv. 6 villages were evacuated and a church and 10 uninhabited houses were destroyed by the blaze. It's very devastating how fire can destroy everything and consume everything within its path. So all the people in Albania, in the northwestern area, please stay safe and make sure to evacuate these areas.
Exactly. And you know what, Eesha, with all of these wildfires and floods, what happens is that, our risk of food insecurity actually goes up as well. And I think that we really need to kind of mention over here how delegates began arriving in Ethiopia's capital ahead of the official opening of the UN Food System Summit, before stock-taking moment in Addis Ababa. The 3-day summit, co-hosted by Ethiopia and Italy, is being held at the United Nations Conference Center. It marks the second global stocktake since the inaugural UN Food System Summit in 2021 and aims to assess progress in transforming food systems while accelerating collective action toward achieving these sustainable development goals. Across the city, LED screens displayed welcome messages in English, Amharic, and delegates registered and mingled ahead of the opening. I think it's wonderful, and we really need to have such amazing systems in place where we make sure that we follow the sustainable development goals and that we risk or lower down the risk of food insecurity all across the globe.
However, speaking of food insecurity and lack of food, we need to recognize how the Palestinians and the people in Gaza are facing a food crisis, and who are the people who are going to take action. It is us who can help them. So diving into the news, hundreds of Palestinians were seen in Beit Lahiya while carrying bags of flour and that have entered Gaza through Israel. 8 trucks started moving towards Gaza from Egypt, and the Egyptian state Altified Al-Khalifa News TV stated that after months of international pressure and warnings from relief agencies of starvation spreading in the Palestinian enclave, the Israeli military states that humanitarian coordinates would be estimated for safe movement of United Nations convoys delivering aid to Gazians, and the humanitarian pauses would be implemented in the populated areas. Dozens of trucks carrying tons of humanitarian aid moved towards the southern part of Gaza.
All right, well, thank you so much. Where you're actually talking about Gaza and food insecurity and how there needs to be aid out there in Gaza, ladies and gentlemen. I think this is a very hopeful news which actually came in, and I wanted to share with our audiences, where thousands of Israelis took the streets of Tel Aviv, voicing their strong opposition to the country's continued military operations in the Gaza Strip and calling for an early ceasefire agreement with Hamas. In central Tel Aviv's Hostages Square, a regular gathering site for anti-war protests over the past year, demonstrators voiced frustration over the prolonged conflict and called on the government to prioritize negotiations. Tensions escalated this week as the Israeli military launched a new ground offensive in central Gaza's Deir al-Balah, raising fresh concerns for hostage safety. The Israeli military campaign in Gaza, ongoing since October 2023, had resulted in 59,733 Palestinian deaths and 477 injuries, which is quite a lot. And I think that the world needs to come together. Finally, a hopeful news from within Israel, where people are actually voicing their concerns as to what the government has been taking or in terms of decision making, and they really need to sit down for negotiations. But while we are at these crossroads, I think what we need to do is we need to speak about how, Eesha, you and me and people on social media play a very crucial role in bringing attention to such menaces, to such conflicts, and how these conflicts needs to be resolved. So I think that me and you and everybody out there who's on television, who's on social media, who's vlogging, who's a blogger, actually brings a lot of attention towards what needs to be done and are shaping the society. Such is an example, ladies and gentlemen, with us, where we will be in conversation with one of our very famous and popular content creator. He just very recently met the Honorable Prime Minister SHEHBAZ Sahab as well, and it was facilitated by him, and he was kind of given that confidence that, whatever you're doing in the right direction. Please make sure that you continue to do so. There were a lot of gifts which were given by the Honorable Prime Minister, which will actually facilitate him in making sure that he creates more content. So joining us, ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Karachi is Mr. TALHA AHMED, who happens to be a content creator. Hello TALHA, assalamu alaikum, कैसे हैं आप?
वालेकुम अस्सलाम, मैं बिल्कुल ठीक हूँ, अल्लाह का एहसान है, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह।
हमारी बहुत खुशनसीबी है कि आज हम अपने इतने बड़े सुपरस्टार से जो है वो मुकालमा करेंगे और शामिल गुफ्तगू होंगे उनके साथ, तो हम तो बहुत खुश हैं। आपको कैसा लग रहा है हमारे प्रोग्राम में शिरकत करके?
अच्छा लग रहा है, बिल्कुल। मेरे लिए भी बाइस खुशी का मकाम है कि आपने इस तरीके से मुझे मौका दिया इंटरव्यू में, और मेरे लिए बाइस मुसरत बात है ये।
जबरदस्त हो गया। तो तलब, मेरा ख्याल है बात सबसे पहले तो यहाँ से शुरू करते हैं, क्योंकि हम आपकी तस्वीरें भी चला रहे हैं और बहुत ज़्यादा वायरल भी हुई आपकी वीडियो। आप हमारे ऑनरेबल वज़ीर आज़म मियाँ मोहम्मद शहबाज शरीफ साहब से भी गए, मिले प्राइम मिनिस्टर हाउस में, फिर उसके बाद आपने रीलें भी बनाई कि यार तुम कौन सा वज़ीर आज़म के पास जा रहे हो, तो आप उसको दिखाते हो कि यार मैं वज़ीर आज़म से मिल के आ रहा हूँ। ज़रा बताओ इस सफ़र के बारे में कि कहाँ से शुरू हुआ और फिर कैसे वज़ीर आज़म हाउस तक पहुँचे आप?
वज़ीर आज़म से मिलने का सफ़र इस तरह से शुरू हुआ था कि मेरी उनसे मुलाकात कराची में प्राइम मिनिस्टर यूथ प्रोग्राम जो हो रहा है उनके चेयरमैन से मुलाकात हुई थी, जुनैद चीमा भाई थे उनके थ्रू। तो मैं इस्लामाबाद में एक इवेंट अटेंड करने गया था, वहाँ उन्होंने मुझे बताया कि आपकी प्राइम मिनिस्टर से मुलाकात तय है, आप अपना शेड्यूल बताएं, अपना स्केड्यूल बताएं, आपसे आपकी मुलाकात करवानी है उनसे। तो बस वहीं पर राब्ता हुआ था और उन्होंने मुलाकात करवा दी थी।
वाओ, एंड यू नो माशाल्लाह माशाल्लाह तलहा, आपके इंस्टाग्राम के ऑलमोस्ट 200,000 मिलियन व्यूज़ हैं, राइट? तो दैट्स अ लॉट ऑफ व्यूज़ जो आपने गेन किए ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम। आप सिर्फ 16 ईयर्स के हो, तो हाउ डू यू हेल्प मेक दिस क्लीन कॉमेडी? ना कोई क्लिक बेट यूज़ होता है, ना बहुत ज़्यादा येलो जर्नलिज्म टाइप यूज़ होता है, तो आप कैसे मज़े की स्किट्स तैयार करते हो?
बिल्कुल मजे की स्क्रिप्ट तैयार मैं करता हूँ इस तरीके से, अपने दायरे में रह के, कि मुझे इस तरह की कोई वल्गर बात नहीं करनी और ना कोई इस तरह की जुबानी बात करनी है। मुझे अपना पॉजिटिव और साफ सुथरा कंटेंट लेके आगे चलना है, जिसे लोग पसंद करते हैं और अपनी फैमिली वगैरह के साथ भी, बच्चे बड़े हर उम्र के लोग देख सकते हैं खुश होके। तो बस मेरे जहन में यही था और मैंने इसी चीज को लेके आगे चला।
और
बिल्कुल तला। और आज जो है ना, हम ईशा को भी हम आज समझाएंगे कि कंटेंट क्रिएशन जब कर रहे होते हैं तो जो स्क्रिप्ट है उसको कैसे फॉलो करना है। इसलिए मैं माज़रत के साथ आपको वापस ज़रा वज़ीर आज़म साहब की जानिब लेकर आना चाहता हूँ कि आपने तो कह दिया कि भाई मुलाकात होगी। देखो कितने सारे बच्चे हैं जो वज़ीर आज़म से मिलना चाहते हैं और वो कुछ ऐसा नहीं अभी कर पा रहे अपनी ज़िंदगी में, तो आपसे इंस्पिरेशन लेंगे। तो आपकी गुफ्तगू क्या हुई वज़ीर आज़म से? जब आपने गुफ्तगू की, उन्होंने आपसे क्या सवालात पूछे, आपने उनसे क्या तज़किरा किया, कोई डिमांड की आपने उनसे, तो उनकी क्या राय थी जो आप कंटेंट बनाते हो उसके बारे में?
उनसे मुलाकात में यही बातें हुई कि उन्होंने मेरे काम को पहले भी देख चुके थे, कई वीडियोस उनके जो कोऑर्डिनेटर थे उन्होंने उनको दिखाई थी। उसके बाद उन्होंने यही कहा कि आपका कंटेंट बहुत अच्छा है, बहुत सौ से, और आपको इसी चीज़ को आगे लेके चलने की ज़रूरत है। हौसला अफजाई की उन्होंने मेरी, और वज़ीर आज़म के दरवाजे में जैसे और भी जितने लोग हैं उन सब के लिए खुले हुए हैं जो अपनी अपनी फील्ड के अंदर अच्छा परफॉर्म कर रहे हैं। और वज़ीर आज़म सर जो हैं वो हर किसी से ही उनके लिए उसी तरह है जिस तरह उन्होंने मुझसे मुलाकात की। तो हर कोई
एग्जैक्टली।
मेहनत करके आगे आ सकता है, और अगर पीएम सर
माशाल्लाह।
से
और
मिलना चाहे तो इंशाल्लाह।
तला एक और भी चीज़ है, वो ये है कि जब भी कोई वजीर आजम हाउस जाता है या सदर हाउस जाता है तो खाली हाथ नहीं आता है। तो जब आप गए तो क्या तोहफे तहरीफ कुछ दिए वजीर आजम ने आपको?
जी जी, उन्होंने मुझे तोहफे दिए थे, अपने हाथ से एक खूबसूरत सी शील्ड भी दी थी, और उसके अलावा उन्होंने मुझे एक लैपटॉप का तोहफा भी दिया था जो मुझे बहुत पसंद आया।
क्या बात है, बहुत ही उम्दा। तो ये अच्छा हो गया। अब अगली दफ़ा अगर हमें जाना वजीर आजम हाउस तो मेरे ख्याल है हम आपसे सिफारिश करेंगे, आप भी हमें साथ ले जाएं ताकि मुलाकात हो सके। बेहतर हो गया। अब आते हैं तला ज़रा कंटेंट क्रिएशन की जानिब। आपने बहुत ही अपनी ज़िंदगी में बहुत ही कम सिनी में कंटेंट क्रिएशन आपने शुरू कर दी। आपको आइडिया कैसे आया, कैसे आपके वालिदैन ने आपको सपोर्ट की, जिसकी बिना पर आप आज माशाल्लाह एक सुपरस्टार हो हमारे मुल्क के?
वालदैन ने सपोर्ट की, घर वालों ने, बहन भाइयों ने, हर मुकाम पे पहले भी, अब भी, आगे भी इंशाल्लाह करते रहेंगे। उन सब की सपोर्ट के नतीजे में मैं यहाँ आज आप सबके सामने मौजूद हूँ।
ऑल राइट, एंड तलहा, एट व्हाट एज डिड यू स्टार्ट कंटेंट क्रिएशन? आपने कब ये स्टार्ट किया और फिर आप कैसे बनाते हो वीडियोस? वी आर क्यूरियस अबाउट दैट। आप अपना फ़ोन यूज़ करते हो, अब शायद आपके पास और कैमराज आ गए हैं, प्लीज़ हमें बताएं।
मैंने इसी साल अपनी वीडियोस बनाने का सिलसिला शुरू किया था, और मेरे पास पहले मोबाइल होता था नॉर्मल जो हम एंड्रॉयड यूज़ करते हैं, और मोबाइल से ही मैं वीडियोस बनाता रहता हूँ। आईफोन अब मेरे पास है, उसके अलावा माइक वगैरह यूज़ करता हूँ, उससे वीडियोस बनाते हैं।
Oh wow! And you know, that's so fascinating that you started this year, just this year, and देखो माशाल्लाह माशाल्लाह आपने इतनी ज़्यादा heights reach कर ली हैं, and that's so
Mashallah.
fascinating.
And not just that, Isha, I think what we really need to kind of speak about over here is that, you know, how strong was his dedication and will. That, you know, whatever resources that he had with him, he made sure that I'm going to make my videos with that, which I believe is beautiful. Which is why, Tala, मैं आपसे ना एक ये सवाल पूछना चाहता हूँ कि देखें, जब आपने शुरू किया, ये तो आइडिया आ गया आपको, तो आपके पास जो भी रिसोर्सेज थी आपने उसी के साथ आगाज़ किया। अब अक्सर बच्चे जो हैं अपने वालिदैन के पास जाकर ज़िद करते हैं कि हमें बहुत ही मॉडर्न फ़ोन चाहिए या नए कैमरास चाहिए अगर हम व्लॉगिंग करना चाहते हैं या इस तरह का कोई भी कंटेंट क्रिएशन वाला काम करना चाहते हैं। आप क्या समझते हो कि क्या ये सब चीज़ें ज़रूरी हैं, या जो भी आपके पास रिसोर्सेज अवेलेबल हो आप उससे कर सकते हैं?
देखिए, आपके पास जो मुयस्सर सामान है तो आप उससे वीडियोस बनाने का आगाज तो करें। मेरे पास भी शुरू में इतना कोई ऐसे नहीं कह सकते कि बहुत ही ज्यादा एडवांस मोबाइल थे इस तरह से। मेरे पास नॉर्मल एक फोन एंड्रॉयड होता था, मैं उससे बनाता था। मैंने अपनी काफी वीडियोस उससे बनाना शुरू की थी। आप अगर बनाने का इरादा रखते हैं तो आपको शुरुआत करनी चाहिए, और मैंने भी की थी अपने नॉर्मल फोन से। अल्लाह ने कामयाबी दे दी ना उसको भी।
And Talha, what sparks your ideas? You know, I've seen कि आप everyday daily life बहुत candid moments का आप portray करते हो, right? तो जैसे अगर आप टेलर से कोई interaction कर रहे हो तो आपके घर कोई plumber आया होता है, आपके पेरेंट्स के साथ कोई interaction होते हैं, siblings के साथ, तो ये moments आप कैसे, आपको आइडिया है कि मैंने यही moments यूज़ करने हैं?
ये मोमेंट इस तरीके से आते हैं कि आपकी ऑब्जर्वेशन स्किल्स अच्छी होनी चाहिए। आप जहाँ भी बैठे हों, आप तवज्जो रखें, हर चीज़ के ऊपर गौर करें, लोग किस तरीके से गुफ्तगू कर रहे हैं, उनकी बातों का महवर क्या है, ये आप अपने कान और आंखें खुली रखते हैं तो फिर आपको इस चीज़ों का अंदाज़ा अच्छे से हो जाता है, बखूबी हो जाता है। और मैं भी बस इन चीज़ों पे अपने फोकस रखता हूँ और आइडियाज़ मिलते जाते हैं जिनकी मैं स्क्रिप्ट बना लेता हूँ और फिर उसको वीडियो एडिट करके या बना के तो अपलोड कर देता हूँ।
Which is why, Tala, I think that, because most of the time what I have seen is that, you always make sure that you give out, some social messages or messages for the community or what people need to do. So what we have done today is that, we have taken out a few categories and we'll ask you what you think about it और आप हमें बताना। तो मैंने क्या किया है कि कुछ शोबों से, कुछ चीज़ों से मैं आपको सिर्फ एक जिक्र करूंगा कि इसके बारे में आपकी क्या राय है, तो आपने उसके बारे में बोलना है, आप जो भी दिल चाहे आप बोल सकते हो, ठीक है?
जी
चलो, सबसे पहले आप क्या सोशल मैसेज दोगे या क्या पैगाम दोगे लोगों को पाकिस्तान में सियासत के बारे में?
पाकिस्तान में सियासत के बारे में मैं ये लोगों को पैगाम दूंगा कि बिल्कुल, कुछ लोग होते हैं वो कहते हैं कि हमने वोट नहीं देना, हम वोट किसी को नहीं देते। तो सबसे पहले मेरा उन लोगों को पैगाम है कि ऐसा आप नहीं कर सकते कि आप कहें कि मैं किसी को वोट नहीं देना चाहता, क्योंकि वोट आपके पास एक अमानत है और आपको अमानत किसी अमानतदार लोगों के सुपुर्द करनी है। तो वोट देना चाहिए बिल्कुल। और आप अपने इर्द गिर्द देखेंगे कौन ऐसा है जो आपसे मुखलिस है, जो आपका वोट लेने के बाद इधर उधर नहीं निकल जाएगा बल्कि आपके दरमियान रहेगा, उसे आपके मसलों, मुसीबतों, परेशानियों का पता है। तो आप अपनी इर्द गिर्द लोगों पर नजर रखें और फिर जब इलेक्शन का टाइम आए तो उन्हें
और
मुंतखब करें।
इसी के साथ अब मैं आपको अगली बात कहने लगा हूं, खेल के मैदान। खेल के मैदान के बारे में क्या राय दोगे लोगों को?
खेल के मैदान में यही राय दूंगा कि खेल ज़रूरी है, इंसानी सेहत के लिए भी, दिमागी सेहत के लिए भी और नशोनुमा वगैरह। और खेल इंसान को एक अच्छा फराहम करता है, उसको अच्छी वाइब आती है। खेलना इंसान के लिए, सेहत के लिए ज़रूरी है बिल्कुल।
क्या बात है। 2 नंबर कारोबार के बारे में क्या कहोगे?
2 नंबर कारोबार के बारे में
हाँ,
इस चीज़ों से इंसान को दूर रहना चाहिए, बेईमानी वगैरह। अल्लाह ताला भी नाराज़गी है इसमें और कोई फ़ायदा भी नहीं है इस तरह की चीज़ों में।
बेहतरीन, क्या बात है यार, आप तो सोच समझ के बोलते हो। अच्छा, शादी के बारे में क्या कहोगे? शादी के बारे में,
शादी के बारे में क्या कहना है?
कोई राय दो ना कि जो लोग शादीशुदा हैं उनको कैसे रहना चाहिए आपस में?
उनको अच्छे से रहना चाहिए और अपनी फैमिली बना के रहना चाहिए, खुश रहना चाहिए बच्चों के साथ, घर वालों के साथ।
ठीक है, और ये बताओ कि जो समोसे हैं, पकोड़े हैं, बर्गर हैं जो आजकल हमारे बच्चे खाते हैं, उन बच्चों से क्या कहोगे? जो बच्चे आज आपको देख रहे हैं कि तला जो है वो सुपरस्टार है और ये जो जंक फूड खाते हैं, अम्मी अब्बू को तंग करते हैं, उनका कहना नहीं मानते, उनके लिए क्या राय है आपके पास?
ये जंक फूड वगैरह, ये चिप्स बर्गर सेहत के लिए भी इतने अच्छे नहीं है। ये इंसान को कभी कभी अगर खा ले, लेकिन ज़्यादा अपनी रूटीन इसको नहीं बनाना चाहिए। जो घर में बनता है, चाहे वो सब्जी हो, ऑर्गेनिक, गोश्त, दालें, यही इंसान को खाना चाहिए। सेहत के लिए भी यही बेहतर है।
ठीक है, और बिल्कुल आखिर में सिर्फ एक आखिरी पैगाम मैं आपसे लेना चाहता हूँ तला, और वो ये है कि जो लोग अपनी नौकरी करते हैं किसी भी इदारे में, ठीक है, और वो वक्त पर कभी नहीं आते हैं, उनके बारे में भी ज़रा कुछ आप बता दो कि उनको क्या करना चाहिए, किस किस्म की शर्मिंदगी महसूस करनी चाहिए?
जब वो अगर किसी इदारे से कोई तनख्वाह वसूल करते हैं, उनको मुआवजा दिया जाता है काम करने का, तो उन पर जिम्मेदारी आयद होती है कि वो वक्त पर तशरीफ लाएं अपने दफ्तर और अपने काम को बखूबी सरअंजाम दें, क्योंकि वो उस चीज़ का मुआवजा ले रहे हैं, वो उस चीज़ की तनख्वाह ले रहे हैं। तो अपने काम के साथ सिंसेयर रहें और वक्त पर आएँ और वक्त पर काम करें।
क्या बात है तला, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर बीइंग विद अस। इट वाज सो लवली एंड अमेजिंग टू बी इन कॉन्वर्सेशन विद सच अ वाइज चाइल्ड। आप इतने अक्लमंद इंसान हैं, बच्चे हैं, और मैं आपको दुआएं देता हूं और मैं आपके लिए दुआ करता हूं और दुआ गो रहूंगा कि अल्लाह आपको इसी तरह तरक्की दे, सेहत दे, और आपके वालदैन को भी मैं बहुत सारी दुआएं देता हूं कि उन्होंने आपको इस मुकाम तक पहुंचाया है। अल्लाह के बाद आप भी अपने काम के साथ सच्चे रहिए, आप पाकिस्तान का नाम बहुत बखूबी रोशन कर रहे हैं। वाह, वंडरफुल, आई थिंक इट वाज लवली, बट आई हैव नेवर एवर मेट ईशा। जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल, व्हेन आई स्पीक टू यू, यू विल नॉट नेवर टेक अ मोमेंट टू रिप्लाई बैक, बट ही एक्चुअली थॉट अबाउट, okay, what questions are being posed towards me took his sweet time and gave away such great messages, which I do believe is the core and the nucleus of his content. So everybody who's out there, please make sure that you actually follow Talha Ahmed.
Just yesterday, he was on our feeds, he was on our phones. I could have never imagined he would be on our show. We were so grateful that he was able to make it, and the whole conversation was so eye-opening.
So thanks to our team.
Definitely. Thanks to our team, and thanks to Talha for taking our time.
All right, well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think what we really need to do is we need to speak about how what we are doing is, so imagine that we speak about how we have contributed towards climate change, global warming, and what we do is that we consume so much, we produce so much waste, we don't do anything about it. So there's one of those subjects which I would want people's attention to be on or diverted on or focused on. And it's because of the fact that these days, every day, on Instagram and everywhere, we do see this Japanese tea, which is called the matcha coffee or whatnot. I think it's green in color or whatnot. But imagine, ladies and gentlemen, that the bright green Japanese tea called matcha is the new craze, thanks to social media. Matcha can be found in everything from Starbucks lattes in the UK to Krispy Kreme donuts in Singapore. Influencers can be seen sharing brewing tips, reviews and recipes as the Matcha Talk hashtag clocked up tens of millions of views. The demand for the powdered Japanese tea is increasing, causing matcha's market to nearly double over a year. According to a US-based tea importer, customers are seeing a month's supply of matcha running out in days. Some cafes are even asking for a kilo of the powder a day, and imagine, so if you are going to consume this matcha, I mean, please leave it behind for people who might not even know about matcha as of now,
Why? Shahzad, have you not tried matcha yet? Have you not tried matcha yet?
I have tried matcha and it's great, but I still cannot actually finish the entire cup of matcha. I think I can have half of it. After that, you feel like, okay, what are you drinking?
But Shahzad, I feel like people are diverting towards it because it looks cleaner and greener, and it has way more antioxidants than coffee. It doesn't give you a crash. It doesn't give you jitters like coffee does. So I think it's a clean and green energy drink to have in the morning.
And not just that, I think in addition to this, where we're speaking about matcha, there's another great news for women who are out there. Well, not so great news. So imagine, because everybody is so used to makeup, I mean, I might be doing that too myself when I have to be on the show because of the lights over here. But people wear makeup without realizing that it puts them at a risk of developing allergies and triggering asthma. Prolonged exposure, as often tends to be the case with makeup, increases the risk. Color pigments found in makeup introduce contaminants such as nickel, cobalt and chromium in the product. These metals are naturally occurring in pigments and can trigger allergic reactions and respiratory issues, especially in sensitive individuals. Fragrances and preservatives like formaldehyde can release airborne irritants that may aggravate asthma. Since these ingredients aren't always clearly listed, it's difficult for consumers to avoid them.
Shahzad, that is so disheartening, and the fact that the labels do not properly identify that these chemicals are present in the makeup.
True.
Right? So when you use them, you never know that it's triggering allergies and asthma. So I think everyone needs to be cautious about the type of makeup products they use.
Exactly.
And speaking of makeup products, what people love to do these days is dress up like their favorite characters, whether it's Lord of the Rings, whether it's Avengers, cosplay communities are on the rise. So I think what we need to talk about is how the San Diego Comic-Con attendees take off their civilian clothes and dress up like sci-fi and fantasy dolls. In Dalian, for instance, a large-scale mechanical ant was installed in the shape of a legendary creature from the ancient Chinese mythology, measuring up to 21 meters long, 6 meters wide and 10 meters high, reaching up to 13 meters when rearing. Each joint is fully articulated, allowing the structure to move with remarkable lifelikeness and capturing powerful energy to create motion. That's so fascinating that giant creatures like these can walk around and they look so lifelike and alive.
I don't know how life will be in next 10 years. Probably everybody's just roaming around like that. I'm like, okay, well, we probably need to stay back home.
Definitely. But Shahzad, if you had to dress up like your favorite character, who would it be?
Superman.
Superman.
Yeah, wearing underwear on top of my pants.
Definitely. And speaking of this, I think what we need to do is, we've talked about how Comic-Cons actually increase tourism in different countries. People want to travel to different states or different countries to attend these Comic-Cons. So what we really need to talk about is how the tourism in Pakistan can be highlighted through heritage and culture. So joining us is Dr. Tahir Saeed, who is the former director of the Federal Department of Archaeology of Museums with over 37 years of field experience. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Tahir Saeed. Thank you for joining us.
Dr. Sahab, assalamu alaikum. Can you hear us? Thank you so much, Dr. Saab, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you, but a lot of people might not even know. So Eesha over here, or me, because we had to research for our program. So beneath the Polish surface of Islamabad lies a history far older than the city itself, stretching back over 2,000 years ago. So sir, please take us through. ये जिस शहर में हम रहते, obviously was built in 1960s, but dates back to 2,000 years old of civilization as well. Please take us through.
Yes, of course, as you know, Pakistan is a history of Pakistan itself is 75 or 77 years old, but actually the land which we are possessing is a land which has a history of hundreds and millions of years ago. So right from here, if I call this, Pakistan is actually one of the fortunate countries of the world which have possessed one of the great civilizations, Indus Valley civilization, the contemporary civilization of Mesopotamian civilization, Egyptian civilization, Chinese civilization, and one of the great civilization of the world is also Indus Valley civilization. The region of Potwar is very rich, and Homo sapien and Homo erectus people evidences are very much here in Potwar region. So actually Islamabad, Rawalpindi is the part of Potwar region, and its history goes back to the millions of years ago. So the hand axes, the old stone implements which the people used in the prehistoric period, and these implements, stone implements, are evidence that Pakistan has uninterrupted history of Potwar region from more than 2.5 million years ago outside Africa. This is a very great discovery which was made by the British Archaeological Mission in collaboration with the Department of Archaeology and Museums during 1970s. And after 20 or 30 years of research, we could find, and we have evidences that the outside Africa, the Homo sapiens and the Homo erectus people's evidences are very much here. The more images in these areas, in Potwar region actually. So this is the primitive stage of our history, and right from the beginning, from the 2.5 million years ago to the British colonial period, it's a long history, and all culture, heritage is,
Exactly. And sir, in addition to this, not just
chronologically
that,
is
if we
coming
if
on
we
this
take a
period.
15 kilometer drive from Islamabad to Taxila, that's where the Buddhists actually had a bigger
Temples,
community. They would learn over there, they would trade over there. So please take us to Taxila as well. So connect Islamabad with Taxila, and how rich was the heritage and culture over there. Not just that, sir, because United Nations has recognized 2 of our sites as the heritage sites for the rest of the world. I think that's a great news for us.
Yes, you are very right. Pakistan has succeeded in inscribing the 6 World Heritage Sites on the World Heritage List of UNESCO. One of them is Taxila, as you say. And Taxila is actually the Mary Kilat, or according to Al-Beruni and Dr. Dani service statements and their research. So this is the part which was the earliest, remains, and also the part where the Muslim period is there, the pre-Islamic period is there, and the Taxila is one of that. And Taxila was the seat of learning actually. Julian site was one of the great city, and it is also inscribed on the World Heritage List. And that in contemporary university was in Nalanda, Bihar, India. So this in prehistoric time, this university and the Taxila's fame was very famous for the education, for the treatment of different diseases. Many researchers, scholars, astronauts, so they were given teaching here, Taxila. So after, for the time being, we can say that the tourism, if we see, it can be a great hub of
All
cultural
right.
tourism if we promote our heritage in Taxila.
Definitely,
Yes.
and this is so fascinating since we've always thought of Islamabad as having tall buildings and being a modern city, but knowing that it has such a strong historical background, it's so fascinating. But what piqued my interest and what I'm very curious about is that how are these historical sites preserved? Do you face any challenges regarding climate change or maybe some looters coming in, unfortunately?
Yeah, actually, Department of Archaeology and Museums made many efforts right from the beginning. You can say that a lot of survey was carried out from the British colonial period, survey was carried out in the Potwar region, Texla, Rawalpindi and Islamabad areas also is concluded is that area. And the important thing is we have to protect, preserve it. The Department of Archaeology and Museum has been trying its best under the limited resources, technical and financial resources. Apart from the collaboration with UNESCO, we have succeeded in prolonging the life of the cultural heritage textila, Buddhist period textila, because these are old, more than 2000 years ago. This was built, and the stupas, textila, Buddhist monasteries, Buddhist stupas are there. Even the old track route of the Texla is also where the caves are there. We have in Islamabad any other many things. For example, Rawat Fort is there on the GT road, and Farwala Fort is there. Then there are Department of Archaeology has carried out recently a survey, and more than 20 new archaeological sites have been highlighted. So this is a very good addition that more than 20 sites have been identified, and this history belongs to second century BC, and it is the contemporary, in the period, the Bir Mount Texla sites. So Islamabad has a lot of potential. Many researchers or students can come study. The more important thing is the preservation. Department of Archaeology is preserving according to their limited resources, but I think the local community, the NGOs and other societies should also come, the heritage lovers should come forward and help in the different modes and different ways. And the main important thing is we have to protect this for the posterity of our future. This is our identity, our national identity, and it's important to protect and preserve it and project it at the international level so that the UNESCO and the other countries can come and also give us the support in technically and financial matters.
That's
And we
wonderful, sir.
can
And not
bring
just
more
that, I think in addition to this, sir, what we really need to kind of speak about over here is that, where we speak of religious tourism or tourism in general, I think there's a bigger market of archaeological tourism out there as well, where people would want to come and kind of look into history. But sir, in addition to this, where we've spoken about, the Texila city and, how people would travel from China and Greece to come over there and study during the Gandhara civilization, I would want to bring your attention towards Mughal era as well, because if we are to kind of look at the Saidpur village, which actually has given us the relics from the Mughal era. So please take us through the Mughal era, because imagine that we are in the land of rich and bold.
Yes, Mughal era is a very important era. Here in this period, a lot of sarais, inns were established. Then the mosque was developed here, sarais was there, step wells were prepared. So these all things were constructed along the GT road, and the Mughal era, a lot of mosques are there. In Islamabad, you can see in Rawalpindi, for example, religious tourism is you can see the lot of Hindu temples, Sikh gurdwaras are there. So there are also remains of Buddhist sites. For example, Ban Fakira, Buddhist stupa is there. It is very near to the Shahalad caves. So religious tourism can be promoted. Then there is another temple at Rawal Dam near. So there are many fascinating heritage. So we can promote our tourism, and religious tourism is a very important factor for the socio-economic development of a country. For in Islamabad, we can promote our religious tourism as well, and not very far from here, the Texla, Mankyala stupa is also very near to Islamabad. So these are the the icons of heritage, right from the many religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, and Zoroastrians. Even there are a lot of religions. So the tourists can come from China, Korea, Japan to see their Buddhist heritage. They are very much interested in Buddhism. So Buddhist is also in KPK. So from Texla they can go. So this was the one part of the Gandhara, which was very...
Exactly, sir. Exactly, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Saab, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with such a learned man who knows so much about the civilization and the archaeological sites of Pakistan and how they need to be our representative of the cultural identity. And we never knew. We thought Islamabad was built in 1960 and it's a modern city, and then there's these green lands and mountains and whatnot. But ladies and gentlemen, we go back to quite a lot of millions of years to where we are today.
Definitely, definitely. It speaks how rich our culture is and how diverse our background is. And now Islamabadis actually have a background rather than people saying, oh no, you must be from somewhere else, not originally from Islamabad.
All right, but obviously not, obviously, you know, we're not from the Gandhara civilization ourselves, but you know, we do have the remains of it. But ladies and gentlemen, in addition to this, I think I would want to bring your attention towards a very serious illness, because it does affect your liver, and when it affects your liver can actually develop liver cancer. Imagine that people out there in the world have actually been struggling with this, and if I am to kind of share its figures with you, 304 million people are living with chronic hepatitis B and C in 2022. Only 45% of babies received the hepatitis B vaccine within 24 hours of their birth in 2022. 1.3 million people died of chronic hepatitis B and C in the 2022. So these are the figures from 2022. So World Hepatitis Day, 28 July, is an opportunity to step up national and international efforts on hepatitis, encourage actions and engagement by individuals, partners and the public, and highlight the need for a greater global response. The date of 28 July was chosen because it's the birthday of Nobel Prize winning scientist Dr. Baruch Blumberg, who discovered hepatitis B virus, HBV, and developed a diagnostic test and vaccine for the virus. Low coverage of testing and treatment is the most important gap to be addressed in order to achieve the global elimination goals by 2030. President and Prime Minister reaffirmed Pakistan's commitment to eliminate hepatitis. President Asif Ali Zardari and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif reaffirmed Pakistan's commitment to eliminating hepatitis and safeguarding public health through comprehensive and sustained efforts. President Zardari emphasized that hepatitis remains a serious public health issue in Pakistan, with millions affected due to delayed diagnosis, inadequate awareness and limited medical resources. He called for a nationally coordinated strategy focusing on awareness campaigns, vaccination, timely screening and accessible treatment, especially in remote and underprivileged areas. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif highlighted that hepatitis is among the most pressing global health challenges. He reaffirmed the government's dedication to fighting with the disease through concrete measures, including the launch of the Prime Minister's National Program for the Elimination of Hepatitis C.
And what I think really needs to be talked about is how hepatitis is still very prevalent. It has different variants and different types as well, and we need to talk about this. And to speak about this, we actually have a guest in our studio.
Who happens to be Professor Major General retired EIJAZ GHANI Saab, former head virology AFIP. Hello sir, assalamu alaikum, good morning, how are you feeling today?
Good morning, good.
Sir, thank you so much for joining us. Wonderful to have you over here. Let's get started, sir. Hepatitis is a killer and it's a silent killer. Tell our viewers about it as well and what can be done.
Well, Pakistan has a huge population, 250 million. And we have many cases of hepatitis. Well, there are different types of hepatitis. There's waterborne hepatitis as well as parenteral route spread hepatitis, which is hepatitis B and C. We are more concerned about hepatitis B and C because they have long-term sequelae. Those who have long-term infections with hepatitis B and C, they end up with serious consequences like cirrhosis of liver and carcinoma of liver. So these are very, very serious illnesses. And we have millions of, as you just said, millions of cases of cirrhosis of liver and liver cancer. And we have very limited capacity to handle these cases. You must have been in this, you talk so much about Islamabad, and I was also educated in Islamabad in ICB right from the beginning till class 12 and then Rawalpindi
F6 or F7, sir?
Yeah, ICB G6.
Yes, wonderful.
Definitely.
So, right from the beginning, we had only a polyclinic hospital. Then in 80s, we saw this PIMS coming up and the capital. And
that's it.
The span of Islamabad has grown. It virtually extends from here to Va and on Peshawar side and right up to Murray on the eastern side.
Everywhere is Islamabad.
And everywhere.
Even beyond Pindi is Islamabad.
And even up to Gujarat it has gone. But we don't have adequate health. Whatever healthcare facilities we have, they are, actually messing up. they are adding to our problems.
They are.
They
But
are
sir,
not
but sir,
solving our
before we
problems.
actually speak about, I'm very sorry to barge in, but before we speak about how we really need to have adequate facility, let's talk about the causes, because I think causes are basically man-made mistakes which actually cause hepatitis, you know, so maybe diet related, maybe us going to a barber, you know, syringes and whatnot. So please take us through, aware us
Well,
about.
the most important cause is linked to the healthcare facilities.
Okay.
Alright.
This is the most serious thing. You know, we are actually following elimination model which was used by Egypt.
Okay.
And how did Egypt end up having so many cases? You know, they had up to more than 10% population which was infected, because in Egypt they had schistosomiasis infection due to a parasite, and for that parasite injectables were given, and those injectables, the syringes were reused.
Okay.
So the poor people,
Suffered.
instead of getting treated from schistosomiasis, ended up having
Getting
hepatitis. So same is the issue with us.
Okay.
Those who are going to the hospitals, actually if you see the cluster of patients, they are more around the hospitals
True.
and around the clinics,
Alright.
quacks. If you live far away from the hospital, the chances of
Us being healthy is better.
yeah, better. If you live close to Skardu, Gilgit or Chor in Sindh, you will be much safer from, if you live
Such a-
close to the, so
Definitely,
the unregulated healthcare facility is one of the biggest issue. So the Prime Minister has launched and the President, they have launched this hepatitis elimination in line with the elimination program of Egypt. It's a very good step, but we must stop new infections. Every year we add nearly 150,000 new cases.
Oh my gosh.
150,000 new cases. If we keep on adding these things, so if our syringes, our hospitals, you know, if you go to a gastroenterologist or any for endoscopy and you end up having hepatitis C, how unfair it is.
Definitely. And
If you go for an appendicectomy surgery and your instruments are not properly sterilized, and after appendicectomy you get Hep C or Hep B, how unfortunate. But this is happening.
And that's what I didn't get, sir. The other day I did go for an endoscopy for one of my medical reasons. And I asked the doctor, man, you know, is it clean what you're going to put in my mouth? So there was this tray of this sort. I don't know what water, was it water in it or what was it? So he kept on dipping in and it was like, it's all safe, it's good. But I think people really need to be aware of it as well, you know, where they could actually voice, you know, most of the time what I've seen is when they go to the doctors, they just think as if, you know, doctor is some sort of a figure where they cannot ask him whatever they
They
want.
must ask. This is the
Exactly.
most important. They must ask about, when they go to the dentist, they must,
definitely.
If it's sterilized or not.
they have the right to get sterilized
tools.
instrument. So this is one, the blood transfusion.
True.
It's another huge segment which needs very good attention, because I said that if we just start screening patients and treating patients, and at the same time we continue to add new patients, this is a very serious issue.
True. Thank you so much for
And
saying
what's
that.
actually horrifying about this disease is that it's known to be a silent killer. So
It's a
9 out of 10 people probably have hepatitis and they don't know about it.
This is a very, very important issue which I would also
Sure,
like
sir.
to, the smallpox, the human beings were able to eradicate smallpox because every infected patients manifested in severe, symptoms, signs and symptoms. They had pox all over their body. But most of the patients who are infected do not know they are infected.
Definitely.
When they visit a hospital for dental treatment, even if they are infected, they don't know. So I urge most of the people to go for screening,
And get it.
and I urge the government, which they are actually planning to do,
True.
that they intend to screen almost the entire population of Pakistan.
All right.
But you know, the political will is there. We need to make public aware of this menace, that it is a threat is there, and we need to smartly use our resources. We do not have endless resources at our disposal. We cannot use tens of billions of dollars on this. So we need to build our own capacity.
Exactly.
The drugs should be indigenous. The testing kits should be indigenous. We cannot afford to import. You know, we are talking about 250 million people, and even the richest countries cannot afford. So it is very unfortunate that Pakistan can make, on one side, very, very advanced things, and you cannot do a urine routine examination test without imported things.
True.
From in Pakistan, the blood CP, the LFT, RFT cannot be done with it. So we need to build our capacity. Indigenous capacity must be seriously undertaken.
Exactly. Thank you so much, sir, for saying that. And very quickly towards the end, one last question, and that is that, okay, one, we really need to screen everyone. Number two, we need to make sure that wherever we go, may it be a doctor, a dentist, or may it be our barber, we need to check if the equipment is sterilized. But sir, do you think that when we speak about hepatitis B and C, that these are 100% treatable if caught well in time?
Yeah. Well, as far as hepatitis C is concerned, we have got very good medicines, and the medicines don't cost much. They hardly cost 15,000 rupees for entire course of 3 months, and they can be eradicated inside 3 months, hepatitis C. As far as hepatitis B is concerned, we have got a very effective vaccine available. If we timely institute that vaccine, we can protect. So at the birth dose, vaccination must be made mandatory for every child. Every
and it should
baby
be available
born
as well.
should be available and should be cost. And all the people who are working in high risk situations, they must also be vaccinated. The vaccine should be very, very cost effective and should be accessible. Similarly, the direct acting antiviral drugs, the drugs used for treatment of hepatitis C should be made accessible to everyone and cost effective.
Thank you so much, sir, for saying that. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the message that we would want to rule out, as Dr. Saab himself has mentioned, that we really need to make sure that we create all those testing kits indigenously, that we create vaccine indigenously as well, so that it's readily available and it's cost effective for people. For everyone who's out there, our responsibility is to get the screening done, to get the test done. God forbid if there's something wrong, Dr. Saab has spoken it, that it's 100% treatable. So ladies and gentlemen, please make sure a stitch in time saves 9. Ladies and gentlemen, look after yourselves. Good morning. Allah Hafiz. Have a great week ahead. Thank you, sir. Very kind of you.